Good evening, Gridiron Buzz Network Nation. Welcome to our Gridiron Buzz Network show. It's our birthday bash. We've made it one whole year as a network. Incredibly excited about all the things going on. My name's Dustin Fisher. This is my dad, Roger Fisher, with the Gridiron Buzz Network.
We made it 1 year. Birthday, anniversary. People have been chiming in all day, wishing us happy birthday. Haven't seen any of the presents yet, but I'm sure it's on the way. Look, this whole last year has been a present. And so we're going to run down some things like we normally do in the show. We're going to do a little walk down memory lane a little bit. We're going to let some new folks understand how we even actually got into where we're at. So let's take a look at kind of how we actually ended up back in electric football to begin with. It's kind of important to understand that story because it's kind of the spark that set off everything else. I'm a longtime player. I wished I had $1 for every million games I played on the back deck or at somebody's house. I mean, almost every Saturday growing up, it was all the men were in a bread sack tied to the handlebars of the bicycle and the 500 board under the shoulder, and away we went. So that's what got me started, much like a lot of other people's story would. Put the game away for a long time. Went off, joined the military, started raising a family. Pretty much forgot about the game for almost 20 years. About 5 or 6 years ago, we were all sitting around, had a big family gathering at Thanksgiving. We were all stuffed full of turkey. The games were the usual boring games and not really much entertainment. And almost on a dare, I went back, pulled the old game out from underneath the bed, put it up on the dining table, and I said, let's try this. And that really kind of was the beginning of it. It kind of got us the fever going again. So that was along about Thanksgiving time. And we kept saying all through the winter, hey, I know this game is starting to be big. You catch it on YouTube once in a while and things like that. But at that particular time, we had no idea that there was a whole body of folks that played all over the country.
Oh, sure.
It popped up, Bama Blast. Of course, we live close to Nashville. Bama Blast. Okay, what's this all about? We watched a little bit of the prior tournaments that they had played and said, we got to get where we can look at this firsthand.
Yep.
So we show up in Bama Blast, 6 years ago, something like that, 6 years ago.
About 5 years ago, yeah.
5 years ago, and really had no idea what we were walking into or what we were about to be exposed to. We met David Nichols,
Yep.
and we call him our Fab Five. And, before I go on any further, we're dog sitting today. So
Yep.
a lot of y'all know that, we're pet friendly and we love our pets. So my watchdog is seeing somebody going down the street, so just kind of ignore her for a minute.
Yeah, she's harmless.
But we got some other folks that sit us down. We were full of questions. I think we just had a notebook full of questions. And we wanted to start our own league and really didn't even know how to do it. David was very helpful. Jim Davis, the Hulk, was one. Salty, Big Salty. Keith Chalmers was there.
Yep.
Rafiyq always had the arms out. And our great friend Jamani.
Yep.
And that's kind of our Fab Five. So those guys sit with us for hours that day, explaining how this game had advanced, explaining how maybe some do's and don'ts of a tournament. And we left at Bama Blast just on a 10-year high, I think. It was like, how do we do this? I want to get involved in this. So we come back home. We start building teams. We start trying to figure out how we can get competitive. We're going to play in this great circuit.
Yep.
Now, I'm a fairly accomplished player, and Dustin has grown into that. He's somewhat of an up-and-coming tweaker, as we know. And we're not bad. We can hold our own. But the first thing I come to the realization of is I wasn't really prepared to put the 15, 20, 30 hours a week into the practice, the tweaking, the painting. And I love to paint, by the way. I just don't like to be under pressure to have to do it. So it became apparent to me really quick that if we were going to be involved in this at that level, it might be difficult because of the level of commitment. I simply had a lot of other things that I wanted to do. I have family, I have pets, and I hunt, I fish, I do all these things. So it was not sure this was for me yet. Wanted to be a part of it. So at that point, we had to come up with something that would keep us involved at the level that we saw, starting with the Bama Blast, And we kicked this around, for a couple of years.
Every bit of that.
Yeah.
Every bit of a couple of years trying to figure it out.
The topic would come up almost every weekend where we would talk, how do we do this? What are we going to do? I want to do this. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute. That's how we actually got involved back into electric football. And I'm going to let Dustin tell you now what became the birth of this network.
Yep. So there we were. Is that how you start a story around here, right? So there I was. 2015, we were at Richmond. They had their national convention, and I'd played in the amateur tournament. Was fascinated. Again, was carrying off that high, coming out of Bama Blast, going into Richmond, looking at all these guys in the big room playing just on these monster boards and all, and I was just fascinated with it. And I couldn't wait until we got back home because I was like, I want to be able to talk about this with my friends. I want to be able to talk about it with the community. And so it was just one of those things. I was super excited. So I played the amateur tournament and lost, but I stayed. I wanted to stay through the TOC championship. It was actually between Barry Stevenson and Ken Allen. And, they had it all quarantined off, had tables around, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I was going to sit there and watch, and somebody tapped me on my shoulder, and I said, I don't know anybody. My family's all sitting here. And they're like, Dustin, we want you to record. And I'm like, I'm going to do what? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
And who was that voice that did that?
Oh, not only was it just somebody, it was Stack and National. Both of them, they were there, and they're like, hey, we've got to go. We've got to roll. Can you do this? We'll commentate later, but can you film the game? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And I was excited at that point because I was a little nervous to not mess it up, but I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into. But I was excited because not only did I got in the ring, I got like front row seats. I got to see the game up close in action, closer than anybody. So they gave me an iPad, and I actually have a picture of it. I'm going to flash it up on the screen here. But they gave me an iPad, and you can see this is actually a picture of me filming the game, and this is a film crew filming me filming the game.
Right.
So this was really cool. This was the origin of Gridiron Buzz Network is like right here in this photo. It was incredible. I did it, and I didn't think much of it. I was trying to do a good job, hold the camera steady, and try to do things. And after the game, everybody was like, we've never had anybody that close to the action before. And I was like, well, okay, I didn't think it did anything special. So we left it alone. We got back, and, lots of conversations, lots of things. And we were trying to recruit people for our league, for our area, and we were having problems with it. It was like, I'm trying to show somebody this game, but we didn't have anything to be able to show them. We love watching the game, but sometimes you guys know on like a shaky cell phone and things, it's a little more difficult to watch, and especially to get a new player or new coach's interest in watching a shaky cell phone game. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So we kept kicking it back and forth, and I'm like, all right, well, neither one of us sleep very well because our minds are normally ticking pretty fast and lots of crazy things. I can remember too, it was almost a year ago. We're celebrating our 1 year, but the inception of bringing out videos and doing some things is right at a year. And I woke up at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I got it. I figured it out. This is how I'm going to do it. So I called Dad. Dad comes over to the house, and I'm like, hey, listen, I've got an idea. I said, how about we create like this whole streaming network? Everybody's on Facebook. Everybody's on YouTube. Everybody's on these social media platforms. How about we do this? And we kicked it around probably for like 8 hours just in one day trying to figure out what we wanted to do. Let me tell you something. We started out as our discussion and our production notes. We didn't even know what we were doing. We started out with one like camera on a tripod just to have steady video. That was our number one goal. Right. Steady video.
And now we're like 5 cameras, 14 monitors, and growing. I mean, it's just we try to do things.
It was incredible. Constantly. So now if we go back and we look at some of our old film, I still really like it. But for the mission and the things that we have and the vision that we have, it's incredible. It's a time thing really. As we grow and as we learn and as we have our supporters, that's what continues to grow the network at this point. But it's been an incredible 1 year. It wasn't until really like last week when we were working on writing the show. We've traveled a lot, and we're going to get into kind of our agenda. But I was like, man, we're at a year already. I mean, it was fast. I feel like we just kind of started figuring things out, and so much of this was just kind of ping ponging ideas. Dad would ask me, hey, can we do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, we can do this. Here's how we got to do it, or I'd kind of throw some ideas or show them some things. And between the two, it's kind of really melded itself into like a really cool thing. So
and a lot of you guys that are close, very close to the network and close to what we do, know how this works. Dustin and I really work really well together in the fact that I'm the big dreamer. I'm the guy that says, hey, I see this on ESPN, I see this on Fox Sports, I want to look like that, or I even want to look bigger or better than that.
Yeah.
And I put a lot on Dustin, but he's the tech guru. None of this would be possible. I'm going to tell you right now, none of this would be possible without the wizardry that this young man brings to the table, because I can barely turn on some of this equipment. And I've challenged him over and over and over hundreds of times since this has started, and he's always rose to the challenge. We've got some things planned down the road that are absolutely going to just knock your socks off, but it takes time and energy. And let's not forget, I'm retired, but he has a day job that he's got to keep up with to keep the lights paid. So I'll let him continue, but just understand that's kind of how we work. I kind of daydream and try to sketch it out what I think it should be while he's doing the day job. And then when I catch him on nights and weekends and I hit him with all this stuff, and somehow he just magically makes it happen.
Yep. So I want to take it for the very first time. We put these. We have a horse trailer. It's called the Wall of Champions. We have a trailer. It's a big trailer that we got so much equipment now that we had to get a trailer. And we're like, man, there's a lot of space here. Can we do something? So we actually put up a Wall of Champions. And it's exciting to see this grow. So we put them out on our Facebook page, but never on the show have we been able to display them. And I just wanted to kind of take a few moments and kind of just highlight back through the year from just all of our champions and all of our supporters, but really just want to highlight, just kind of take it in chronological order, and I'll hit on them quickly and we'll get into our show. But this is how far we've came. Everywhere that we go, if there's a tournament or a champion to be crowned, whether it be a league champion, a tournament champion, a victor of some sort, they make it to this trailer. And we've made it a long way in just a short amount of time. So here we go. Let's take a look at it. This is going to go kind of from the beginning through our current situation. But this is the very first one we did, Cincinnati Crush. This was our maiden voyage. Frank Jacobs took that win. It was a open tournament. Man, we had a lot to learn there. I don't even know if that video is audible or editable. Or
it's a good thing that, the funny part about this particular tournament, right out of the gate, we had a couple of webcams and a computer. It was still kind of, and it is a tough venue to get in. It's through a secured door. You got to have somebody let you in. It's in an elevator to go down a floor, to climb back up a flight of steps, to go down a flight of steps into a gym that's kind of half underground, surrounded by concrete walls. And I remember that day, it was like, oh my goodness. Internet was like worse than dial-up, yep. I think. But we got it done.
And then we hit right off after that. So that was in like March, April timeframe. Next one we hit was Chattanooga, and that was in June. Felt like that came back, really fast back to back. We're still running our webcam, still trying to figure it out. Brandon Woodard took that one in the single, tournament of champions, and then we had our coaches challenge, Joel Pritchard and B-Nut, doing their thing. So that was a lot of fun. That was now we have the horse trailer going. We got 3 on the board, and we're like, yeah, we're doing things. Well, come right behind that, and we had the Miniature Football Coaches Association MFCA Con 11, right? So there's Jim the Hulk Davis. He won it in Dallas. So we're like, oh, man, we drove to Dallas. So we brought the trailer to Dallas. We got Barry Stevenson on the right and Kelly Newton. They won the Coaches Challenge. So it was like, wow, we got people going. And then we crowned a world champion. Yep. In Dallas, we had our first world champion. So he's the biggest picture on the thing. It's Adrian Baxter.
Deserving.
Yeah, absolutely. You want a ring, you get a big picture. Well, guess what? We're almost to that point again.
Yeah, we're back around to it again.
So we're about to add the second picture. So it's like, all right, cool. We finished up with Dallas. What's next? Well, we're back in. We're starting a new tournament champion season. It's the Kansas City Twister. Brandon Woodard wins again. We have our first two-time winner. Boom, we're in there. And I'm excited. It's like, wow, this is crazy. Well, guess what? In that same tournament, the Coaches Challenge, guess who wins it again? Kelly Newton. Yeah. And Mike Turner is standing on a chair in this picture.
Yeah, well, Kelly is because of Mike's stature. We had to put Kelly on the chair.
Well, so we finish up Kansas City, and that's in September, and then we go out, and what do we do? We run into the Buckeye Brawl in Canton, Ohio.
Hall of Fame.
And the Football Hall of Fame, and we're playing. Norbert Revels comes out of retirement and goes and knocks it out. Boom, there it is.
Yeah, tough. I mean, just a complete display of perfection the whole weekend for Norbert. Great run.
Yep. And then, Coach's Challenge, Brian Phillips, Jeff McCauley, a couple East Coast guys out there. So, now we've got some diversity. We've got East Coast, West Coast, North, South. We've got it going on now. And it's getting to be exciting. So we finished that up, and that's at the end of 2018, right? So that's Canton, that's the Buckeye Brawl. We're like, all right, cool. Finally get a break. We did our whole Christmas thing, had all that great stuff going on, and then right back into it. Here we go again, back in Cincinnati.
Where it all started.
We came full circle. The Ohio Valley had their first tournament, or their league championship. Frank Jacobs, a second-time winner of the horse trailer.
We have 3 two-time winners. We're still looking for our first 3-time winner.
Yep.
And I'll just tell you this. It's still a fairly exclusive club.
Yep.
There's only 15 members in the horse trailer club.
Yep. It is. So then we go right after that. So that's like the 5th of January, and then we head out to L.A. There it is, Marty Thomas, showing up out of nowhere. A lot of people didn't even know the guy. He can play.
Sure. Oh, yes.
He can play.
Oh, my goodness.
Just because he wasn't on Facebook, that's why he wasn't known.
Yep.
But the guy can play. Blackout Bills, boom, knocks it out.
I'm still thinking he's an android or something. I'm not sure.
Yep. And then Coach's Challenge. There's 2 of the Fab Five, Darren Jamani and Rafiyq, knocking it out of the park in the Coach's Challenge. Out in L.A., we're now officially coast to coast.
Coast to coast, border to border.
We turn right back around from L.A. We don't even unpack, and we end up in Dallas. Dallas Miniature Football League. Pat Morris taking home the Lombardi Trophy there, or the Reggie Rutledge Trophy as they know it.
Right.
Doing his thing. So, all right, cool. So we're officially, we've gotten 3 tournaments in like 4 weeks. Well, that's not good enough, because guess what? We end up in Deep South the weekend after that. So back to back to back. L.A., Dallas, Deep South, and we traveled some. We haven't even unpacked. We're still not really unpacked.
No, we're still about halfway packed up from Atlanta yet.
But there's Charles Lane. So all of these coaches have been part of our journey and part of our abilities to, to be able to do this. And we just really can't thank you guys enough, and all of our fans. Jamie, I see you guys on there. John Sullivan, Monty's on there. Met so many of you guys in person in like the last year. It's just been absolutely incredible of a 1-year anniversary, and it's like it's only been a year, but it feels like it's been 10 years in some regard.
Well, and we filled a lot of blanks in. As we were traveling the country and doing this, we saw and been exposed to so many different play styles, so many different mentalities when approaching this game. But at the end of it all, it's all about the camaraderie and the fellowship. And I think that's really one of the driving forces. That's probably, if you ask all the coaches combined, that's probably 99% of them would say it's the fellowship that drives them.
Yep. All right. What do you say we get into our agenda?
Well, let's do this.
All right.
Let's start off with the current TLC standings. Update them from the Rumble.
Yep.
Out in LA. We'll start there with the top 5.
Yep. So top 5, if it were to finish today, and remember, this isn't necessarily who would be in the Elite 8 or the final tournament. This is just based on points. Certain coaches have already won, which I believe a lot of these coaches are very close. But in the number 1 spot in points, that's Brandon Woodard with 168 points. So he's well on his way. He does have the win in Kansas City, so he has already secured a spot. But if he didn't, he certainly got the points to be able to show for it there. And then Pat Morris is sitting in second spot, still looking for his first win. Had a runner-up spot in the brawl, but in really securing himself in that was second place in points with 105. Pep Woods had a great showing in Kansas City with 87 points, and Norbert Revels with the win in the Buckeye Brawl with 87 points. So that's our top 5. It's still anybody's game. Remember, they take the top 8. If you win a tournament, you have an automatic seat, and then they take the last 2 seats as a point standing. So points do matter. If you don't win, the participation and participating and doing well in the tournament definitely helps out. So we've got great stuff coming up for that. A lot of tournament action still. We still have 3 tournaments essentially left to go for the season. So if you haven't gotten your name in the hat yet, you still have time. There's still plenty of room. We'll promise we'll make room, and we're really looking forward to it.
Well, and the first thing that jumps out to me when you look at these point standings like this, of course, Brandon just setting the world on fire out there. A huge lead right now. Really, by winning a tournament, you punch your ticket. So if he never showed up anymore until the finals, he's still there. And there's a fairly good drop-off to number 2 with Pat. And then after that, there's a whole bunch. And if we were to run this list out, say maybe 6 through 15, they're all grouped that from anywhere from the 3 spot to the 15 spot, all within maybe 8 or 10 points of each other.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so cool, lots of action. TOC, stay tuned. We've got some updates coming up in the show, but want to make sure everybody knows our next one coming up very soon. Got about 30 days, 35 days, something like that, and we'll be at the next one. All right. Kicking it off to our Fault Line Rumble. So, that was out in L.A. That was coming on the heels of our Ohio Valley EFL trip. First time going to the West Coast. Lots of challenges, but I had a great time.
Well, and what about that trip? I mean, it was a true road trip. We have the truck that pulls the horse trailer. A lot of times, a lot of the places we go, since we're kind of centrally located, we can drive within just a few hours, so it's like a day's drive. This was really, truly a road trip. This was packing. We debate. It's 1,722 miles, I believe, from our doorstep to the tournament at the Rumble. Driving was just prohibitive.
Yeah,
it would have took 3-4 days both ways. So the biggest challenge that we've had to date is how we going to move all this equipment. What do we take? And, thank goodness for Cello out there and being the host. He had some connections with some Universal Studio, I think, lots, something like that.
Yeah.
Had some friends that got our truss set up for us. It was just easy. We come in, we hung cameras, we plugged and played, and just had a great time. And, my wife and I were out there between Christmas and New Year's for the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
We left here in about 35-degree weather expecting to get out there and hit like 70s.
Right.
It was colder out there then than what it was here. So I didn't really know what to expect. Well, were we going to get into more of that or not? Well, fortunately, when Dustin and I landed, it was a balmy about 72 degrees.
Oh, it was nice.
And it felt great.
It was nice.
It was really a great time. If you're within driving distance, you have no excuse to not be at this tournament. Even if you fly in, it's a very affordable thing. Get yourself to the West Coast. I really see the Rumble as being one of the tournaments that are really going to catch on and be great.
Yep.
So
looking forward to it next year for sure.
Let's run down a little bit. In the Coaches Challenge, you had Rafiyq and Jamani. Had that Texans, the Texans Bengals connection.
Yep.
They win the Coaches Challenge over Pat and Brandon, and that was just a up and down the field shootout.
Yep.
Pat, he was switching back and forth between these Raiders and Panthers, and we kind of joke sometimes we don't know whether to call them the Ranthers or the Paters. But he had them smoking hot, and Brandon hung tough. But in the end, Rafiyq and Jamani were our Coaches Challenge champions. In one of our semis to get to the championship was Cello and the Saints, won over Brandon Woodard's Cowboys.
What a game.
And that was a game.
Yeah.
Was that not the game that was I know Cello had one game. There were several kick returns.
Yep.
Just back.
Cello had a game that for the first 9 plays of the game,
right.
it was a touchdown. It was a ping pong match.
Right.
And in this game between Brandon and Cello, the score was like 48-52 or something. I mean, it was over 100 points. And it was just incredible. It was great defense. It was just they were just that much better on offense, and it was. And
we got the GMs chiming in there. You see her online. She went to visit my mama, who's in the veterans home.
Oh.
And hi, Mom.
Hi, Grandma.
Hi, Mom. Yeah, she's a lovely lady out there.
Yeah,
took a fall here a couple of weeks ago.
And I hope she's doing all right.
And I think she's going to bounce back.
Yep.
God bless her. She's almost 94.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's the one that got Grandma's the one that got Dad started.
Yeah, it's her fault. She started it all because every Saturday she would hit a yard sale or an auction, and that's how my electric football collection grew. I mean, I had thousands of men when I was growing up. So thanks, Mom. You did it for us.
There we go. We're getting Brandon chiming in. So yeah, 4 kickoff returns. Just incredible game.
Right. Right.
Crazy stuff going back and forth. And at the same time that we had that going on, we had our feature game going. And it's hard to say that was a feature game. That's just the game that we were on. They were both feature games. I mean, if we could have had cameras on both of them, it was crazy action. I could hear. I was trying to keep an eye on it, but man, it was just so much going on. Pretty crazy stuff. So
in our other semifinal game to set up a championship, somebody that's been around for a long time, but a lot of people don't know because he doesn't really put himself out there a lot, especially on Facebook. So, but Marty Thomas and his blacked out Bills, what a good looking team, and a little bit of a surprise and up and comer with JC. JC Davis brought his Bears team. Never played in a tournament before. Especially at this level.
Yep.
Made it all the way. I mean, the game that he got knocked out would have put him into the championship game.
Yep.
But he ran into a buzzsaw with Marty and those Bills. I'll tell you, we saw Norbert put this clinic on in the brawl, and I was having flashbacks of Norbert watching Marty play because his defense was stifling. He was getting guys open. He was running. He was passing. I mean, it was just textbook.
Yep.
So I remember talking to Cello after the Brandon game, and he was just exhausted, and we've talked about this before, where when you're a tournament coordinator or an event coordinator and you're trying to play and be competitive at the same time, that's difficult to do. You have to wear so many hats. You're bouncing in and bouncing out mentally, physically, emotionally. All this takes a toll. And Cello told me, he's like, look, if I survived Brandon, which he did, he said, I'm probably not going to survive Marty. He was spent. I looked over, he was laying in the floor, stretching out. Looked like he was getting ready at halftime of an NBA game or something, And, I mean, he put everything he had into that game, and it took that to beat Brandon in that particular game. So that set up the championship between Cello and the Saints and these blacked out Bills, which I'm sure you're going to start seeing and hearing a whole bunch more of.
Oh, yeah.
I became friends on Facebook with Marty since then. I got to admit, I didn't know him.
Yep.
I mean, I got to know him.
Met a lot of guys out in the West Coast.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a great connection. Great connection.
Yep.
And now I'm starting to learn some things about Marty. Since I'm intrigued. The guy operates this like 80 or 90 foot crane.
He's a crane operator.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I used to jump out of airplanes for a living, but I'm not operating no crane.
That's crazy stuff. Yeah.
But in the end, these blacked out Bills, they just overwhelmed Cello and the Saints, and Cello put up a great fight.
Yep.
I mean, he had his game, but you could tell the wear and tear of the whole weekend.
Oh yeah.
Leading up to that, he just needed about another 20% more energy to finish out, and not taking anything away from Marty because, like I said, Marty played a textbook tournament the whole time. So that was your winner in the Rumble. Congratulations to Marty and these blacked out Bills. And we're going to roll into now. Let's talk about the Capital City Clash coming up.
Capital City Clash. It's our next tournament that we will be at. It's April 5th through the 7th. That's in College Park, Maryland, so just kind of outside the D.C. area. Really looking forward to it. If you haven't had a chance to book your rooms, you still have time. It's going to be some great times out there. We do have a phone number. We'll actually put it in the description for the videos later. But if you are listening now and need it now, that phone number is 301-345-6700. And that is to get your room booked, get everything done. Do have some early registration. There's some incentive to do that. This is one of the biggest Tournament of Champions tournaments. It'll be our first time going to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But, make sure you get your room. Make sure you get in there. I'm looking forward to it. I think Darrell's going to do a great job at putting some things together for us. And
this is another one of these tournaments that just continue to grow. 10%, 20%, 30% growth each year.
Yep.
Pretty soon we're going to have the whole floor of the hotel instead of just a room, I think.
Yep.
That is kind of one of the hotbeds of activities out there on that East Coast. But what do you think about maybe some early predictions or so? I mean, we're seeing some things starting to develop now.
It's so, I think it's so wide open now in some regard because you've got the established coaches that have already gotten their spot or they're in the points lead, but you're going to have a whole, just like we had in the West Coast, we had guys show up and we're like, who are these people? Right. The East Coast is very much the same way. It's just a hotbed of electric football activity. So, I mean, we may have a dark horse just come out of nowhere and just sneak up and get it.
Maybe.
But you got to look out. You got Adrian in there. You got Norbert in there. Don't forget about Jamani, and not to leave anybody out. Brian Phillips, Jeff McCauley, Rafiyq's coming. Deep South is coming. Texas is coming.
And you got guys like Clay Lomax and
Yeah,
VR
heck yeah. You can't leave that out.
I'm sure there's going to be some Philly guys. The Philly Nephill are going to show up, and it's just a great
guys
spot.
coming out of New York, guys coming out of Detroit, Tampa, Florida. I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you. When we looked at the Rumble, normally we could kind of figure it out. But the thing that I'm starting to see in a lot of these very far coastal, connection type things, when we went out to the Rumble, there was a lot of coaches, and we may have known them from Facebook and things like that. But the level of play and the style of play is so different. And especially if you have the West Coast guys coming out to the East Coast, I think it was the most challenging tournament just from a skills competition, because you didn't know that guy. You didn't know how he was going to play, and I think you're going to see that on the East Coast too. If you got those West Coast guys coming, which I understand that a few of them might be, this is anybody's tournament again. It's going to be a Marty Thomas who actually just joined the chat, sliding in there.
I think you probably heard us talking about him. So
Somebody woke him up.
Marty, watch the replay later, and you'll see. We said a lot of good stuff for you.
Absolutely.
But, and that's the whole thing. Until the Rumble really broke the ice, and we had East Coast guys showing up on the West Coast, and now hopefully that gets reciprocated and comes back, and I think it will. United and Southwest and Delta, all these, bless you if you're flying Spirit Air. We'll have that conversation later. But, it makes the world a small place. A few dollars, I understand, but at the same time, you can get anywhere. And what we're going to see coming up with the Clash is that intermix again of what we saw on the West Coast going the other way. We had guys that had known about each other for years, but they'd never been in the same room with each other. So that's what makes it special. Now, speaking of special, we've got a mystery coach on the line that's going to show up, and he's going to participate. And what I can tell you, just to give you a few clues, we're not going to say who he is. If you're at the class, you're going to know on Saturday morning, right before pool play, who he is. But I will say this, he's a legend in this game. He's well known and well respected, but you probably haven't heard from him in quite some time. And what I can tell you is he's a little bit of a secret weapon. Okay? He can play. It would be a tremendous honor just to be on the field and first of all, just get to meet him, just to get to know him. What I can tell you is he'll be a blast, and he's looking forward to doing this as much as we are, to help him bring in, it's like we were talking about, a lot of the new folks that coming in hear these names, but they really they've never been in the same room with them. So we'll give you some details, some clues as we go. You can guess early, that's fine, but we're not going to reveal until Saturday morning of pool play, and then you'll see.
I can tell you this much from a mystery coach standpoint: if you don't know it's you, then it's probably not you.
Yeah. Well, Ken Allen's already hit me up about that. It's kind of, thanks for inviting me, and I was like,
wow.
I'm not sure. Maybe I did.
Maybe things happen. All right. Oh my goodness.
So let's move on to the Ohio Valley, and they had their playoffs in their Super Bowl. Now we're going backwards just a little bit, but we're trying to recap some stuff. Hey, this is our birthday anniversary bash here, so we're trying to kind of set the stage for a lot of new folks that don't know, and not maybe fill in some holes for some old timers that just haven't been paying attention much. So let's talk about the Ohio Valley playoffs.
Oh man, what a show! So great finish to their season. It was the Ohio Valley Electric Football League. That was their playoffs, so finishing up their league, and just really had a great time there. But so we had, first game that we were looking at is Jamie Taylor, and it was a semifinal with their Wolfpack versus Monty Kendall. I wish that we had, of all the games that we probably have seen or witnessed, that's one that I really wish that would have been
top 10 worthy.
Oh my gosh, 7 overtimes. I can't make this up. 7 overtimes. They were so tired of playing each other. It was like 4 games in itself. It was untimed downs. I mean, it took like 3 hours to play 7 overtimes. I might be exaggerating just a hair there, but not really, because you had guys running back up to the parking lot to pay to stay extra just to watch the 7 overtimes. It was like a little pay lot. So it was incredible. They finally got it through. Jamie finally took the win, but it was, holy cow, it was crazy. And then we also had, at the same time, we had Frank Jacobs and his Oilers over Brian Fox and the Saints, and it was pretty freaking crazy with that one too. I believe that was our feature game that we had going on at the same time. And then to wrap it up, Frank Jacobs and his Oilers, saw his card earlier, Frank Jacobs and his Oilers took it home over Jamie Taylor and NC State. So it was a great game. We had a lot of great time. If you haven't had a chance to check out the action, you can actually, the video is up on our Facebook page. Just hit videos, and you guys can definitely go back and watch it. But we had a great time. Congratulations again to Frank. Great job from Jamie and all the guys there. Really looking forward to your next season. I think they've kind of got some things lining up for some league versus league competition stuff coming up in the near future. And
I think Jamie kind of got caught up into what we were talking about with Cello out there on the West Coast. It was a war of attrition. A lot of times people don't think that this game it's a game, right? It's not demanding. It's just pushing little plastic men across the board. But when you're in it at the level that our coaches, and I don't think you can describe them any other way than to say they're professional. When you spend the money that some of these coaches spend, not only on their equipment, their team, but the travel, the gas, the food, the hotels, the entry fees, there's nothing else to describe it but a professional, maybe a professional hobbyist, but still professional nonetheless. And when you stand like Jamie and Monty did and play that long in one set, your ankles start hurting, your knees start hurting, your back starts hurting, you're starting to wane, mentally, you're just kind of in and out of it. It's grueling. So, when you're looking at some of these, like even these tournaments when we play, you play 3 games in pool play. You might have another 2, 3 as far as you can go. At the end of the day, if you've won the thing, you've played 7, 8 games on your feet.
Yep. And that's the thing. Even with the overtime game, it was as exciting and as fun as it was to watch. It was almost exhausting to watch. Like your emotions are just back and forth, and you don't want to see the team lose, but it's like, man, how many times can we get through this? And
that's where it's at. You're kind of split. It's like, wow, how do we do we still have to keep going here? And then you don't want it to end. I mean, we love both of these coaches. It's like, and we always say this: no one really loses. It's just that somebody has to win.
Yep.
And that's the nature of the business. When we're running these tournaments, we have to run them down to 2 finalists that are going to compete for the championship.
Yep. All right, moving on.
Where are we going to this time?
We are going to Dallas.
Back to Dallas, okay.
Dallas we go. So Dallas MFL, that's the Miniature Football League. 100% full disclosure. I didn't even know who we were going to be broadcasting when we were heading down there. We are literally driving down there. And I'm like, all right, is this like the Dallas Fort Worth? What's going on?
A bunch of guys? I mean,
So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm like texting Pat, and I'm like, Pat, do you play in this league? Brandon, do you play? Well, I'm trying to figure out. I was like, I just know people in Texas, so I'm trying to figure it out. And we were heading down there, and we're like, all right, cool.
We're doing research on the way. We got asked to come and broadcast the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I didn't pick up on that clue. I didn't realize we were going to drive 1,300 miles round trip to do one game.
One game.
But I will tell you this. It was the best spent 1,300 miles that we drove to do one game.
Yeah, it was incredible.
It was off the charts. You got Dr. Bob Owens down there that just rolled out the red carpet for us and really made it a fun weekend. I got to tell you something. I've always heard about this box thing, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But how do you like the coming out of the tunnel pre-game entry carrying 3 Reggie Rutledge?
Yep.
And we're going to give Reggie the credit, even though they're Lombardi trophies. That was Reggie's trophy.
It's Reggie's trophy, yeah.
Carrying 3 of these. He's won the last, Dr. Bob has won the last 3 Super Bowls consecutive. And he's got cheerleaders and pom-poms shaking, got the whole Raiderette cheerleader thing going. And it's just coming out the rock and driving music. Oh, it was great. So he sets the stage. And you think, okay, is that it? No, the game actually went off the charts even higher than that. One of those top 10 games. You know, how many top 10 games can you have before you don't have a top 10 anymore? You have a top 100.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
But this game, in the end, came down to a 42-41 win by Pat and his Panthers.
Just the Panthers this time.
Just the Panthers.
Just the Panthers.
And Pat going into it was 0-7 against Dr. Bob in this league. Had never beat him.
Yep.
Okay? So, the box.
The box
was remarkable. A combination of dice, and the players could call for the box at any time. Sometimes the box is your friend, sometimes it's your worst enemy, but the box likes nobody. And depending on the outcome of the dice roll, it could be a fumble, it could be an interception, it could be a big penalty, it could be any number of things that could change the game. And I commented numerous times during the broadcast that you have the game, you have the electric football game going on. But in as much as that is a strategy of the box, because you have to be able to react to the results of that. So you almost have to think on two different levels. So the box was incredible. It made a lot of noise. It was, it got your attention. And I think, Dustin's put up the kind of the flow chart just to give you an example of how in-depth this thing is. It was just, I got to admit, I was apprehensive going into it. I'm like, don't give me any more to worry about. I want to see football. I don't want. At the end of the game, I was a believer in the box because it adds an air of realism that you can't hardly get anywhere else, and that unpredictability.
One of the biggest things, there we go. Pat hates the box. It is a love-hate relationship, and I would definitely agree with that. One of the things that was fascinating, so when we're on the way down, I'm trying to study the rules. I know every league has this little nuances and ways that they play, and when we broadcast, we want to know. Let me tell you something. Like, it caught me off guard, and I was like, oh my gosh. But as we got into it, I started kind of getting a rhythm for it. And you could see the chart there. We can definitely help you guys out. That's from the Dallas Miniature Football League. They were gracious enough to share it with us, but the fascinating part to me, and the one rule that just like crazily stuck out to me, it had injuries on there, right? So you shake the box, if it has an injury, and if it's your quarterback, this was the crazy part. If it's your quarterback, you actually lose the quarterback. You may actually lose him for the entire game. So you actually have to take your man, put him on the sideline, he's out. But there's more. Not just that guy. You actually have to take your flicker out of the game.
Yeah. So corresponding throwing quarterback.
The throwing quarterback, he has to be out. So you have to have a backup throwing quarterback, a backup flicker, to be able to compete. Because if not, you're going to end up running the ball if your quarterback gets knocked out.
Right.
I mean, and those are real possibilities. Every player, every position was vulnerable to that. They had ejections. They had all kinds of stuff. So it was just really, really fun. And I can't wait to kind of mess around with that on my own time. I may play solitaire with the box.
Now, if you haven't tried it, look into it. I'm telling you, it will change your view of how this game is played.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the biggest innovative things that I've been exposed to since we've been back online doing this, as far as what actually changes the game.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
So as I started to finish before, we got a crown a winner here.
Yep.
Dr. Bob won the last 3 in a row. Pat, 0-7 against Dr. Bob in this league. You're not going to believe this, but we saw it with our own eyes. Go back and watch the film. I promise you it's true. Pat wins on a last-second field goal with time running out, 42-41. But here's the catch. As he's lining up to kick the field goal, the board's turned on. It's a live play.
It's live.
You have to kick the ball with the players rushing you for the attempt at a block. And it ended up very, very close, like within just maybe a 16th of an inch of being blocked.
I mean, you were actually putting your punter on the board. You have to say ready. The board comes on. You have loopers coming in. You have guys coming in everywhere, and you have to kick. it's just insane. I thought somebody accidentally turned the board on. I'm like, no, that's how we play. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
it made me a nervous wreck to watch that.
And I'd gotten up and got in my Tony Siragusa position, so I was like a foot away from this thing. I didn't expect the board to come on. I mean, I saw them line up, and I thought, okay, they're going to do like what we do in Thunder Valley. You get a 2-second runoff.
Right.
If you don't block, then the kick goes
an opportunity,
away.
And then you're out of the way,
No, I was sitting there, Pat's lined up, the board comes on, the men start moving, and he kicks, and I went, is that really?
And it was a game.
It was a game-winning field goal with the board turned on. It was great action, guys.
Incredible. Great. All right. So, it's a great game. Definitely looking forward to going to Dallas for the Dallas Miniature Football League next year. We finished that one game, which, by the way, was 35-minute quarters, so it wasn't even just like an hour. It was an all-day event to play one game. We played in a doctor's office. First time that we broadcasted in doctor's. Played in Dr. Bob's.
In case somebody got hurt.
Yeah. In Dr. Bob's doctor's office, in his personal office, the Owens Hearing Center, and it was just crazy. So we break down. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon, and here's the crazy part: we had to be back in our house at by 8 o'clock the next morning. We had a prior commitment.
Yep, had to be here. Had a grandbaby getting christened and dedicated, and it was like here we are, 650, almost 700 miles from home. Good thing it was 11 o'clock at night because I was hammering my 250.
Yeah.
We won't say really how fast it will.
We don't know how the speedometer needle's out. We can't see it, so we don't know.
Yeah, somewhere probably north of 90, I would say, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. It went fast and it drank a lot of gas, but we made it back. I think we did the whole one leg in, one leg out. All right, we're good. And it was Super Bowl Sunday, so we had to sleep in between all that. But we made it. Wouldn't do it any other way. It was great because we didn't even unpack the truck. Guess why? We went to Atlanta. We went to the Deep South.
Yep.
We went to the Deep South.
Let's talk about that just on the backside of a quick sponsor break.
Yep.
We need to reload some stuff here. We'll be right back with you.
Imagine a game where you can pit the greatest Texas high school football teams of all time against each other. Before now, if you wanted to see the Permian Panthers of Friday Night Lights fame play Johnny Manziel's 2010 Kerrville squad, you were stuck with only your imagination. Not anymore. This new game allows you to play those dream matchups. 1983 Dangerfield only allowed 8 points all season. 2015 Katy, 10 shutouts en route to their 4th straight championship appearance. 2008 Allen, their first of 5 championships in the state's largest classification, and so many more. Friday Night Legends is that game. What are you waiting for? Get in the game. Friday Night Legends. Imagine a game.
All right, sponsor breaks. Those are important. I forgot about those.
I almost missed it.
Almost. Ooh, we got excited.
They're going to shut the light bill off on us so we didn't get
We got excited. So Friday Night Legends, it's FridayNightLegends.com. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, we've got some more sponsors coming up after we talk about the Deep South and the things that happened with it. But, this was like a back-to-back weekend. This is our 3rd weekend in a row. We hadn't even unpacked the truck. Deep South, here we come. We're like, all right, we're excited, we're ready to go. And we knew we were doing more than one game this time, but it was going to be a lot of great games.
We're doing the whole playoffs at this point. So why don't you tell us about, let's start with the semifinals.
Yeah. So, one thing I would say, just if you guys haven't had a chance to watch that Deep South videos yet, we're still in the process of breaking them down into their individual ones for the ones that we've done. First of all, I'm still full from all the crock pots that were sitting on those tables.
Lord, did we.
They had white chicken chili and jambalaya and this dip and that dip and we got 2 kinds of cake.
Barbecued sausage.
It was crazy.
2 cakes.
2 cakes. It wasn't just 1 cake. It was 2 freaking cakes. And there was it was good.
We ate.
Deep South throws a party when they do it, and I'm super happy to finally get a chance. We met a lot of those guys at the Bama Blast, but we were finally back down that way, and we were able to do it. Just a great time. It was their league championships. They were wrapping it up, playing for all of it. Had a great atmosphere. One of the big things that I would say, and if you guys can do this in your league when we're there, it helps us out. They actually had like a master scoreboard over to the side. They had a runner. If somebody scored, they just come over and just tally it up. So we could glance at just a very quick second and kind of give you a breakdown of what was going on in the room. And I thought that was incredibly helpful. So definitely appreciate you guys for doing that.
It was because, when we're doing live broadcasts, especially, folks chime in all the time. What's the score of this game? Or, give us an update on that game. And sometimes we're kind of glued to the broadcast that we're doing, and it's difficult sometimes to get up and get around the room. So when we can just glance, and have updates, that helps everybody. So, and it's something that we may look at incorporating even when we show up. Everywhere we show up, we'll just bring the board with us.
Yeah, that may be a thing too. It was just nice, the little dry erase board that, and it had the league logos and or their team logos. So it was great for that. So we got to see Charles Lane and his Cowboys over, and he played Rafiyq McDanul and the Texans. That game was pretty close. I mean, I think Charles has had a defensive block, and it was very difficult to really get anything going. We got to see him a couple times in our feature games. It was 34-24, but we were talking to Rafiyq, and Rafiyq was on. He was doing well with his passing and doing well playing his game. But Charles just had a whole nother look. You could look at Charles and just know he was business. I mean, Charles is a great guy. Love him to death. But when he was playing those games,
really
he was
laid
business.
back. But he had a glare in his eye that whole day.
Yep.
That just, you could tell he was determined. He missed out on the championship last year, and he was determined to get it back. And he said to me even before he played Rafiyq, he's like, I don't want to have to play him again. It was just, I don't know if I can do this or not. But somehow he managed. And the thing I noticed about Charles's game the whole week was that he just kept doing just enough.
Yep.
He wasn't doing anything spectacularly great, but he was doing, his defense would always come up with a big play on time. He would bust a big run when he needed to. He did just enough the whole time to get it done.
Yep, absolutely, and that's the big thing. And it just hats off to Charles. Great job by Rafiyq, but it was just a tough game. And then we got to see Pat Morris over Alan Ridgel. We actually had a new feature that we put into the Deep South tournament, and that was actually a vote. And you guys were able to go out and vote for the games that you wanted to see, who you wanted to watch, what happened. Pat Morris, big win over Allen, 49-7, and just really got a hold of that one. So then we come down to our championship game. And, it's Charles Lane, the Cowboys, Pat Morris, and the Panthers. And, we saw Pat just a week prior take on Dallas Miniature Football, and he won. So we're like, could we have our very first back-to-back champion?
Maybe.
Unfortunately, no. Charles, with his locked-in game, just got down, and it was just a brutal slugfest both directions. That game flip-flopped back and forth, and so we didn't have a box to have to worry about, but 42-41 in this game, and, the Cowboys came out on top. And so Charles, while he won it 9 consecutive times, lost it last year, he ripped that thing right back into it. I mean,
he's back on a new streak now.
Exactly.
And, that game, another one of those, could we get it into a top 10 game? Pat went for 2 with 48 seconds left. That would have put him ahead.
Yep.
And got stopped just, like I said, Charles the whole day, just whenever he needed a big play, got a stop about a half a yard from the goal line that would have put Pat ahead with 48 seconds and really put the pressure on Charles. But it just wasn't to be. Charles ends up winning. So.
Yep, absolutely. So just great job by the Deep South. If you guys haven't had a chance, I know their leagues are going to kick off again probably late in the fall type thing, but get to practicing because those guys can play. I want to take just a quick second and talk to you guys on air. I know you may have seen some of the posts and some of the things that are going on, but I want to talk to you guys about our Amazon affiliation. So with you guys and all the support from the Gridiron Buzz Nation, we actually have been able to pick up an Amazon affiliation. Now you may ask, what does that mean? I don't understand what you're saying. It's real simple. As a Gridiron Buzz Network, Dad and I have funded a majority of what you see and the things that we do and the travel. We've certainly got some great sponsors that have helped us out, but this is another way that everybody in the Gridiron Buzz Nation can actually help us without really having to do much other than what you would normally do anyways. So this is the way it works. Amazon, we actually applied for an affiliation, and what that means is we can post links, and if you guys purchase through those links, it doesn't cost you any extra. It doesn't cost you anything else, except we just get a little bit of a kickback. And we've actually posted things like the tweaking pliers and some of our favorite tools. But if there's something you guys are looking to purchase, we'll continue to post our links through it for Amazon. Literally, if you just click on it, it's exactly Amazon's page. There's nothing crazy. You would shop like normal, but everything that you purchase actually goes right back into a percentage goes back into the network. It doesn't cost you anything. Very, very simple. So just asking everybody to keep you guys in mind, or for us in mind, if you're like, hey, I got to buy something off Amazon. We buy stuff off Amazon constantly, whether it be for the network or for electric football or something personal. But you can literally go there. The link is there, and we'll throw it up again later. But the link is there. Click on it, and literally anything you buy, we get percentages back. It makes it pretty easy. So just something pretty easy, to go. But you'll hear more about as we go. Just want to kind of give you guys a heads up on that.
And I see a comment here from one of my favorite coaches. Jamie's talking about don't forget about the Renaissance. And
oh no,
Jamie, here's something for you. Already wrote into the script. We're heading to the Renaissance now.
The Renaissance, yep.
And another league that may not get the attention that a lot of the other leagues do, but they're up and coming. They've got a really good stable of coaches there that are solid. Some high-end competition there. We're looking at in the semis, you had Jamel Goodloe and the Rams, 21-17 over Jim the Hulk and the Bengals.
Yep.
And I haven't seen that look from the Hulk yet, running the Bengals. I'm usually, the Lions. I know he had a Jaguars team.
Raiders at one point.
Raiders. I'd like to see him running a Bengals team. I don't know, something about that just kind of connects. But, on that given day, Jamel had his Rams and, what was in a tight game at 21-17. Bengals were up in the fourth quarter, which is interesting. He could have put that game away. Threw a critical pick, the Hulk did at midfield, and kind of turned the game. And then, you can tell by the final score that it was a close game. So, and the other side, we had Greg Hardman and the Steelers, and he stopped the streaking Seahawks team, coached by Brian Perry. And I understand that was a back and forth game. Until it kind of started. I think the Steelers kind of pulled away there late. And then that set up your championship game with the Rams and Coach Goodloe and
Greg
Hardman, yes. Slipped my mind just for a second. That's what happens when you get north of 50. And the Steelers there. In the end of that, I think it was the Rams' time. So maybe Coach Goodloe's kind of vindicated the real Super Bowl for the Rams that laid an egg.
Yep.
I think it was kind of back to what we used to call Super Bowl instead of Super Bowl. But congratulations to Coach Goodloe and a league, the Renaissance, that we haven't spoke much about, simply because I don't know. I think we just haven't done our homework enough. It's one of those things, and this is one of the things that we really like doing in the network, is to broaden out to these other leagues. If you have a league, whether it's even a solitaire league, start talking to us, start sending us pictures. I know a lot of people put them out kind of in general, but if you direct those at us and we can put together something that we can talk about, we'll happily get you out on there.
Definitely saw Patrick Hayward talking about the Grey Cup. They had a Grey Cup, so we'll be touching base with him as we go along, and just really, looking forward to all that. We're not biased or so heavy on just tournament champions. We love talking about leagues, individual coaches. We have a lot of great things coming down the pipe. We've been able to get some interviews in that hopefully we'll be able to air very, very shortly, and that should just kind of open up the game a little bit, just kind of get to know these coaches around the hobby.
Well, we've talked about this before, is that our belief is that there would be no TLC, there would be no national or worldwide tournament without the leagues. It's where it starts. The leagues are where you perfect your craft. The leagues are where you get help, you get advice, you get the experience to go on a big stage, and you identify weaknesses that you can fix and things. So without the leagues are the homegrown stuff. If you're not playing in leagues, TLC is kind of tough.
Makes it tough. All right, let's move upstate a little bit. And
going to the IEFL now, another league that a lot of people haven't heard much about. And IEFL, what is that? It stands for the Independent Electric Football League. I like independent leagues because I'm a little bit of a rebel myself too, and I like to march to my own drum. I don't mind conforming to the rules and doing things that make it fair for everybody. But here you got a league that they haven't isolated themselves. They just I would say, probably insulated themselves to the point that they don't buy
Yep.
into a lot of the politics. They don't buy into a lot of the things that hold back certain leagues, certain tournaments. They do things their way, and they're very successful at it. And I've kind of been trying to work with some of their league mates and draw out some of this, because I think they really need to get the attention that everybody else does. It's certainly a great league. So once you recap for us a little bit of the IEFL and how they went.
So Lorenzo Brani and his Texans over Jerry Fulton and the Colts, that was 30-14. So, tough game. Couple touchdowns there difference. Manny Hall and the Cowboys over Al Harvey and the Seahawks, 24-12. And that put them in the Super Bowl. That's going to be the Super Bowl was Manny Hall and the Cowboys over Lorenzo and his Texans, 62-48.
Wow.
Holy cow.
The defenses didn't get on. They missed the bus.
That's incredible. So it's a big shootout. Ground and pound game looks just. They might have had a box or something going on. Just say touchdown. I don't know. That's well north of 100 points, and that's just incredible in a football game, electric football especially. And shout out to IEFL. Definitely appreciate what you guys are out there doing. I see Baz just joined in. Just thank you guys so much for giving us the content, and we really appreciate it. Looking forward to maybe getting up there at some point. Maybe we'll just have to kind of make that North America, Detroit, Philly, New York trip.
Those of you that are in the circles and on a lot of the social media on the sites and friends with a lot of the different leagues and things, Manny Hall shouldn't be a strange name to you. I mean, he posts a lot of his team, individual figures and things. So most of you, though, would probably only know him as, well, he's a great painter, he's a great figure maker. He does all these things, but does he play? Well, the answer is yes, he plays, and he plays very well. Mm-hmm. And taking nothing away from Lorenzo, I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if you're a 10 and a 12-year-old on the back deck. If you're playing a 62-48 game, that's hard to put up that kind of points in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a game in the Deep South. You remember? I think Mark was in the back. We see Mark. Hey, Mark, that's our GBN West affiliate.
Yep.
He's a great supporter of us. He was chiming in with some of the polls we were putting up with the game in the Deep South about over/under 90 points, and we had a couple of them that did get north of 90.
It's crazy.
But when you're looking at 110 points, that's just unbelievable.
That's insane. It's a lot of good football there. A lot of high scoring, potent offenses.
Well, folks, we've come to that point. We always kind of save the best for last, as I say. And this list that we're about to publish is controversial in some people's eyes. Some people use it for very strong motivation. Hopefully nobody gets dejected by it, but I always have to set the parameters to it before we give the list, because we get all kinds of, this is the one part that I get the most calls, the most response. What about me? What about this person? What about folks, let's revisit the rules. We look at a criteria. This is called the top 10 hottest coaches in the country.
Yes.
In our opinion now.
Right now, top 10.
Yeah, like up to the minute. And it's not a list that's going to agree with everybody. Some people are going to have different. But this is what we look at. We go back over the last 2 months, last 60 days, the last 2 tournament cycles. Now, for this timing purpose, we use the TLC. But anything that happens within there, in league play, one-off tournaments, speaking of which, I think we need to get in contact with Brandon again. I think he's looking to do the shootout, the Texas quarterback thing.
Yep.
I know he's trying to get that coming up.
Yep, saw that posted.
We'll get you some info about that. But when you're looking at this list, just know this. This is not the top 10 greatest of all time. This is simply who is hot, who's got it going right now.
Yep.
So as we customarily do, we're going to count up, I guess, or count down, whichever way you want to look at it, from 10 to 1. Simply our opinion. You can buzz in. You can tell us what you think. We appreciate all that. So let's kick it off.
Oh, boy. We had some shakeups. A lot of great football action as we spent the last hour plus covering. So the shakeups in the list are pretty crazy. And, a lot of it is just like we sat probably for 2 hours to deliberate about this whole list, and I'm excited because I'm like, man, some people, a lot of new first timers on here. Here we go. Number 10, we just spoke about him. IEFL champion Manny Hall and the Cowboys. You know, great job. How do you not make a top 10 list, putting up 62 points
To win a championship.
and win a championship?
Against a very good team.
Yeah. So there you go, number 10. Congratulations, Coach. Looking forward to seeing your incline.
Moving on to number 9. Once again, how do you win a league of any substance, be a champion of a league, and not make a top 10 list of the hottest coaches? Jamel Goodloe and the Rams.
Yep.
You know, the Renaissance champ. Got to be looked at as the top 10 hottest coaches in the country by winning that.
Beating a lot of veterans, doing some really established stuff, or beating some coaches that have been very established. I think you have to. You look at that league, no slouch in that league. Anybody's game. So congratulations, Jamel. Number 8, Mr. Rafiyq McDanul. When you look at this, when you look at Rafiyq, you got to look at a lot of things. You got to look at, won the coaches challenge. A lot of coaches might say, well, he had a partner, but he was still half of it. He's still half of it. He's still a champion. Final 4 in the Deep South. Made a heck of a run. Made a heck of a run out in L.A. So a lot of great stuff out there. So Rafiyq McDanul coming in at number 8. Really proud of him. Looking forward to seeing what he's got. I think he's got a win streak coming in him. I keep talking to him, and he's like, I got this. I'm like, okay.
Probably the one coach of all this list that's been on the list the longest. He's bounced around anywhere from 3, 4. Yep. We're seeing him slip a little bit, not so much because it's him doing it, because he's still playing very consistently. One big tournament win will probably vault him right up into the top 1 or 2.
Yep.
But it's more so that great coaches are coming on the list now, catching up to folks.
Yep.
And I know Rafiyq, we talk almost weekly. He's going to take this as locker room material. We didn't stick him, at the number 8 spot out of spite. We just felt like that's where he should be right now. So if he uses this for motivation, I don't want to be the next guy that plays him.
No, not after that last game.
So number 7, once again, how can you have a run like he's had in the last 2 months and not be on the list? How about Dr. Bob Owens running with his Longhorns in a mix of the Raiders, looking at a Final 4 in the Rumble? Took Marty to knock him out.
Yep.
And was in his own league Super Bowl and lost it on the last second field goal. Could have had a 4-peat.
Yep.
And he's right there. I've been watching his game a lot here lately, and I think he's a coach that could hold his own and very deserving of the 7th spot.
And he has a base that he's tweaked that can push a 7-pound cowbell.
Yeah. And you got to be, look, if you've never won a game, you got to be on the top 10 list just because you can push a 7-pound dumbbell. That's just me.
Yeah. Good stuff. Number 6. So back to 2-time horse trailer champion, big-time Ohio Valley champion, Mr. Frank Jacobs and his Oilers. He's been on the list before, kind of slid around some different places, but coming off a great season and an Ohio Valley Electric Football champion, knocking it out of the park there. So the really, really tough stuff there. I think there's a lot of people in this 5, 6, 7 category. You could slide names in anywhere. This is just, when we look at it as a whole, it's like, man, there's so many coaches, but there's 10 spots. So if you haven't made it on the list yet, and you're like, man, that should have been me, or I feel like that should have been me, get there.
Well, we always say, you want us to talk about you, you got to make us talk about you.
Yep.
So, and in regards to Frank, I don't know that we've seen over the last year or so a more consistent coach, a coach that just kind of brings his A game every time. Frank is not a coach that's going to beat himself. You're going to have to take it to Frank, and he's solid.
Yep.
Again, not a question of is he falling. It's just that there are people catching up to him. So if Frank's at number 6, number 5's got to be worth a Deep South champion, Charles Lane.
Yep.
Again, a very consistent coach. Always seems to do enough to always be there. Very quiet, not real animated at times, so people it slips up on them that they don't realize he's in Final Fours, he's in championship games, he's winning championships. Very quiet, reserved person, one of my favorite folks of all time. He's very deserving of the number 5, so congratulations, Charles.
Yep. Number 4, brand new to the list as well. So, as you can tell, we've kind of got a theme going. This champion, that champion, this champion. That's a lot of football action. I fully expect as we go along, that list will kind of expand out and slide around as we get into like more tournament champions or other leagues start to go. I'm seeing a lot of feedback. We've got a lot of great things coming in. So, you got to play your butt off to stay on this list right now because of everything going on. But number 4, your 2019 first annual Fault Line Rumble champion, and it's Blacked Out Bills Marty Thomas. So congratulations, you guys got to see it on the Gridiron Buzz Network. Marty put on a heck of a show. The defense was there. He had the hype. He had the game. He had the team. Now he's got the gold ball to go with it. So really, congratulations, jumping up that high. But when you look at the amount of talent that was in that room and the things that had the level of competition, it was just you gotta hand it to Marty at the number 4 spot.
Well, and Marty's in a unique position now because again the criteria of this list is a rolling sliding scale of 60 days. There's a number of great coaches that we know in the country that's not on this list, but they become inactive or their appearances are too far in between. So you're going to fall off the list if you're dormant. If you're not doing what you need to be doing, you're going to fall off. So Marty's in a unique position that he could vault from that number 4 spot if he shows up at a clash or makes another major tournament somewhere. The sky's the limit, just like the cranes that he operates. So just an impressive weekend that he put on. And that coach that shows you that this is no accident. You may not have heard about him, but he didn't just invent his game. It's been there for a while. So if he's going to be number 4, I got to look at Norbert Revels as number 3.
Yep.
And the Dartmouth and the captain he's got going strong. And Norbert's in that, he's a Glass City champion, which is about the outer bounds of the 60-day criteria that we're looking at. And then the Brawl champion, and to put on the show that he did of just sheer dominance, and did it with a running game. There's people say, well, you can't run in electric football, and I beg to differ. Go back and watch the 3 games we have on Norbert, and you'll get a really good scouting report about how you can run the football. So Norbert, again, is in that position that if he can come to the clash, make a strong showing, he could very easily vault to that number 1 list. So, we got Norbert at 3. How about number 2?
Yep, and now definitely one of those things. I think with Norbert, before we head on to that, it's one of those things that he's he's kind of moving towards the back end of our window, so he's going to have to show up in the Capital City Class or show up in a league and start getting games in and to maintain that spot. If not, somebody else can take it. Might be you, could be. Number 2, Mr. Brandon Woodard. So formerly our number 1, so that means we're going to have a new number 1. But Brandon Woodard has absolutely just been on a tear. Won the Kansas City Twister, Final Four championship, for the Brawl. Doing really well in the Rumble. Made it, dang near the Final Four in the Rumble as well. So traveling around, doing a lot of things, and just an overall well-rounded player. So congratulations to him. He's going to continue to do well. I'm looking forward to it. They've got tons of leagues going on and more football action, so I anticipate Brandon to still be up there, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen because he slipped from the 1 spot because we have a new number 1.
New number 1 this week. Been on the list for quite a bit. And with Brandon, I think Brandon's held the number 1 spot longer than anybody since we've been doing this poll. Congratulations to him just being in the top 2-3 for so long, and he just continues to put up numbers. But we have a new number 1, at least for this poll, and we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how long he can hold this spot. But we're talking about, before I give you his name, we're talking about a Brawl finalist. We're talking about a Dallas champion, and we're talking about
Deep South runner-up.
The Deep South runner-up, Pat Morris.
Yeah.
And he's doing it with like more than one team, which is difficult to do anyway. I've always called Pat the consummate gunslinger. He's just a guy that rides into town, shoots all the bad guys, and rides off. I mean, there's probably nobody, maybe Rafiyq that I know of, that travels as heavy as Pat does. We did have a conversation with Pat in Atlanta at the Deep South playoffs, and he's like, look, I'm loving this. I'm loving life. but I really need to cut back 1 or 2 leagues because it's taking its toll on him now. He really wants to start concentrating down. I think he committed to the Deep South and maybe one other, and then it's going to be about the TOCs because when you got somebody that's traveled as much as Pat does and is dedicated to this game as he does and can play at the level and you're in the number 1 position now on our spot, we think enough of you to say, you know what, you've earned it.
Yep. So definitely, definitely great stuff. A lot of great coaches on here. Again, continue to play. Get on the list. Make us aware of your leagues. That definitely helps us because the more news, when we realize that not everyone is on Facebook, we will have more news about that as we go along. We are more than likely going to be transitioning off of Facebook for any type of video content in the very near future, but we know everybody's kind of in a routine now and still kind of knows where to find us, but we want to make sure that when we do it, we let everybody know. But we realize, like the Dallas Miniature Football League, they're not necessarily on Facebook. Have a fantastic website with all the stats and all the great things going on, and we know that people play that we've never even heard of. So if you haven't gotten a chance to meet us or send us a message, feel free, shoot us a message, give us a call, whatever makes you comfortable. We'll definitely take a look at everything. We want to make sure to include everybody. This is the premier Miniature Football Network, so we want to make sure we put that out there for the best light for everybody. It's been a great show. It's kind of sad
I think we're about to the end of the list, aren't we?
Yeah, our birthday show is almost over. It's dinner time for a lot of folks. Our West Coast guys are probably just now getting off work, and
they're probably sitting at the pool drinking.
Yeah.
Margaritas.
Yeah. We've had a little bit of a flood situation here, so I've got a heck of a trek home. That was a massive landslide that backed up traffic for 7 hours last night, so we got to deal with that when we leave here. But
yeah, well, are we ready to call this one done?
I think we're good, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. Definitely appreciate it.
Well, we're going to sign off like we always do, folks. Folks of you that are close to me know what I'm about to say. If I greet you on the street, it's always about this. You love your family. You love your friends. You love your pets. You love your football. Buzz on. We'll see you next time.